Zemina Torval. From her earliest years, she was immersed in the nuances of commerce, diplomacy, and the subtle art of strategy. Bitterwood estates were more than homes. They were schools of power, where alliances were negotiated over breakfast and rivalries were measured in subtle gestures. Her youth in the core systems was marked by a rigorous education, balancing mathematics and economics with imperial history and etiquette. At only 13 years old, she was already recognized in certain political circles as a prodigy, capable of navigating complex imperial bureaucracy with a deftness that belied her age. Her tutors often remarked that Zemina approached challenges not merely with intellect, but with a meticulous calculation of leverage and consequence, a skill that would define her future career. As she matured, Torval's influence expanded from private finance into the corridors of the Senate. She had secured her first political appointments, demonstrating an uncanny ability to consolidate support among regional governors while simultaneously managing her family's commercial interests. Her strategy was subtle but decisive. Rather than overtly confront rivals, she created networks of dependence, ensuring that allies remained loyal not out of fear, but because cooperation offered the greatest advantage. A defining moment in her early career occurred during a period of unrest in the Zemina system. The region, rich in strategic resources, had become a point of contention among imperial factions and independent operators. Recognizing both the threat and the opportunity, the emperor entrusted Torval with operational command of a majestic-class interdictor, temporarily assigned to her to oversee the system's security. While she did not own the vessel, this unprecedented delegation of a capital-class warship to a senator was a powerful testament to her competence and influence. From the bridge of the majestic class, Torval coordinated patrols, monitored shipping lanes, and ensured that imperial authority was asserted with precision. Her orders reflected a careful balance, assertive enough to deter threats, yet restrained enough to maintain stability and minimize civilian impact. Officers noted that her strategic approach differed from traditional military directives. She considered long-term political consequences alongside immediate tactical objectives. The assignment, though brief, cemented her reputation as a senator capable of merging political foresight with operational command. By 3310, Torval had expanded her influence into economic policy, leveraging Bitterwood resources to support imperial infrastructure projects while cultivating alliances with influential senators and corporate leaders. Her approach was consistent: create value for allies, assert authority where necessary, and ensure that her strategic interests were always safeguarded. She became known for her ability to anticipate challenges before they arose, whether in politics, commerce, or the delicate interplay of imperial factions. Zemina's early years of strategy and operational leadership forged the foundation for her eventual rise to prominence. The combination of inherited wealth, education, and calculated engagement with imperial power allowed her to emerge not just as a senator, but as a figure whose presence commanded respect and caution. Senator and sovereign, Torval's rise in the imperial senate. Zemina Torval's ascent within the imperial senate was neither swift nor accidental. It was the result of decades of calculated strategy, meticulous planning, and an unwavering commitment to traditional imperial values. In 3304, she returned to the Senate after a brief hiatus, signaling her readiness to reassert her influence on the galactic stage. Her return was marked by a series of strategic alliances and political maneuvers that solidified her position among the Senate's elite. Throughout her tenure in the Senate, Torval remained a staunch advocate for imperial traditions, particularly the institution of slavery, which she viewed as a cornerstone of imperial society. Her wealth, amassed through ventures like Mastopoulos Mining and Torval Mining Ltd., was built upon these foundations. She utilized her resources to influence policy, lower taxes for her supporters, and ensure that her vision for the empire was realized. Her influence extended beyond legislation. She cultivated a network of loyalists and allies, ensuring that her policies were enacted and her interests protected. Torval's rise in the Senate was not without challenges. She faced opposition from various factions, including abolitionists and reformists, who viewed her traditionalist views as antiquated. However, Torval adeptly navigated these challenges, using her wealth, influence, and strategic alliances to maintain her position. Her ability to adapt to the shifting political landscape, while remaining steadfast in her principles, ensured her continued prominence in imperial politics. By the early 3310s, Torval had solidified her status as one of the most powerful and influential figures in the empire. Her leadership in the Senate was characterized by a blend of diplomacy, strategic foresight, and an unwavering commitment to imperial traditions. Empire's economics. When Senator Zemina Torval assumed stewardship of Sinthini, she also inherited the intricate economic network beneath its verdant exterior. It served as the financial and political engine through which she shaped and sustained her influence within the empire. By August 3307, Torval's economic vision grew increasingly bold. She spun off an autonomous company, Torval Mining Limited, separating it from Mastopoulos Mining. Appointed CEO, she elevated her daughter Constantia to Director of Operations and began to redirect industrial focus to the new corporate entity. Within weeks, the new company had established its headquarters at Torval Orbital in the permit-locked system of LTT-198, a system rich in minerals and strategically isolated, perfect for both production and control. October 3307 brought tangible proof of her ambitions. Twilight deliveries of geological equipment, microbial furnaces, and mineral extractors flowed into the megaship Pride of Bitterwood stationed in the adjacent system EGM 559. From there, the resources were transferred to LT-198's core infrastructure. The speed and success of the resource haul demonstrated her ability to marshal the machinery of imperial space. The economic maneuvers extended into public policy. Within her territory, Torval consistently reduced or eliminated taxes for her supporters, fostering loyalty through fiscal incentives rather than military might. Under her guidance, traders and miners prospered. Mining profits soared, trade returns improved, and her subjects called her approach the empire that empowers, even while maintaining the darker traditions upon which it was built. Her private marketplace, Lagerkvist Gateway, went beyond commerce. It housed the empire's largest imperial slave market, plush shopping pavilions, and galleries celebrating Bitterwood's legacy. The station served as a potent symbol, a monument to Torval's economic foundation and the social hierarchy she deliberately upheld. The Senate formally welcomed her back in January 3310 after a brief absence. She announced a delegation of her corporate responsibilities to Constantia, reaffirming her focus on legislative influence. Her reintegration was ceremonial but carried weight, the message clear. Economic strength, after all, empowered political ascendancy. By late 3310, analysts counted over 600 systems under her covert influence. Strongholds, fortified zones, and exploited systems alike aligned economically and politically with Torval's agenda. These systems contributed to the stability of her network, fueled by mining revenues, trade bonds, and carefully nurtured loyalty. Power, profit, and philanthropy, the dual legacy of Torval Mining. When Zemina Torval founded Torval Mining Ltd. In August 3307, she did more than establish another mining powerhouse. She laid the foundation for an empire built on wealth and public influence. Originally a subsidiary of Mastopoulos Mining, the strategic split allowed her to more narrowly shape her family's legacy. With her daughter Constantia serving as operations director, the new venture quickly set its headquarters in the permit-locked LTT-198 system. The Pride of Bitterwood, a megaship, became the campaign center for delivering geological equipment and industrial infrastructure, marking the company's transition from inherited wealth to autonomous power. By late August, Torval Mining had already eclipsed competitors such as Recon Construction in mining campaigns, securing the majority of resources delivered to its fleet. Zealous pilots who supported the effort received lavish rewards. Experimental mining lasers and permanent access permits to LTT-198. These incentives offered high returns, encouraged loyalty, and swiftly consolidated the company's influence across the region. But Torval's approach never relied on profit alone. Within the empire, she cultivated philanthropy alongside power, understanding that generosity could cement long-term support just as effectively as wealth. Schools bore her name. Her flagship academy at Bitterwood trained future industrialists, legislators, and military leaders. Across dozens of other institutions, sponsorships became associated with her name, creating gratitude, stability, and an unparalleled reputation. This dual legacy, profit and philanthropy, came full circle when she returned to the Senate in January 3310 after taking a short leave. She declared that responsibility for Torval mining had passed to her daughter, freeing herself to recommit to governmental duties with renewed focus. The empire she had nurtured economically was now proving its worth through social investments and political influence. By November 3309, under Constantia's leadership, Torval mining extended further into frontier regions like LHS 3872. A major shipment of lithium hydroxide, pinite, praseodymium, and tritium was delivered successfully, and contributors received corporate rewards for their effort. Austerity or opportunity? Imperial slavery reframed by Torval. Zemina Torval's unwavering advocacy for imperial slavery reveals a carefully calibrated philosophy, one that reshapes a fraught institution as both a social safety net and a source of stability. Her arguments reframed servitude not as oppression, but as structured opportunity grounded in imperial ideals of order and duty. Her pivotal 3303 midwinter address to the Bitterwood children remains iconic. She equated scorn for slaves to a hand condemning the feet, dismissing equality as destructive idealism. In her view, imperial slavery existed as a voluntary remedy. Citizens crippled by debt or dishonor could choose temporary servitude to regain footing. Slavery, she argued, offered shelter, employment, and a path back to full citizenship. When unregulated slavery emerged on the fringes, illicit and brutal, Torval's faction purchased those enslaved, integrated them into the regulated system, and offered them rights and eventual emancipation as imperial citizens. It was both philanthropy and containment, reformed by law and capital. April 1st, 3301 marked a public confrontation between her and abolitionists like Princess Aisling Duval. The challenge: who could better support imperial slaves? Torval vowed to rehabilitate them. Duval aimed for immediate freedom. The challenge generated heated public interest and highlighted their ideological divide: order and structure versus liberation and unpredictability. Her brand of slavery also informed her governance. In stations like Lagerquist Gateway, the largest imperial slave market orbited in empire-held space under her ownership. There, she combined commerce with compassion. Traders found both the structure of trade and assurances of welfare. She resisted mistreatment, condemning slave abuse as dishonorable, one of the rare areas where moral and legal strictness aligned in her world. Critics found her rhetoric chillingly pragmatic, but unapologetically imperial. To her, the Federation's egalitarianism threatened social cohesion. Uniform equality risked erasing the very role distinctions that gave the empire its strength and identity. Yet there remained a dark tension. While her model offered structure and pathway, critics charged that the empire's slaves still endured harsh labor, especially on remote mining worlds. Torval responded that abuses were the exception, not the norm, and touted imperial law's protections as far stricter than the Federation would ever allow. By 3308, such complexity had become her trademark. A defender of tradition who invested in social institutions, a symbol of order who imposed discipline, yet provided scholarships to children, even those born into servitude, for Bitterwood Academy. Whether her vision stood as enlightened structure or denial of inherent freedom, it shaped her political legacy. For supporters, her empire offered predictability, restoration, and a dignified community. For detractors, it was a gilded cage, a betrayal draped in benevolence. Back to the Senate, a quiet return in 3310. On January 11th, 3310, the Imperial Senate formally welcomed back Senator Zemina Torval after several months of absence. Her return ended murmurs suggesting ill health, restoring her as a commanding presence in imperial politics. Addressing the assembly with calm dignity, she explained that her hiatus had been necessary to consolidate corporate responsibilities, announcing the formal transfer of Torval Mining Ltd. Into the hands of her eldest daughter, Constantia. With her industrial affairs stably secured, Torval stated that her full attention now returned to her senatorial duties, a declaration that left no doubt. Her political focus was undivided. Senatorial analysts noted another dimension. At the age of 132, Torval stood among the most senior members of the imperial government, a living repository of tradition and authority. Her reappearance sparked both relief and unease among peers. Those hoping for retirement now found themselves facing a revitalized stalwart firmly recommitted to imperial rule. Notably, Chancellor Anders Blaine was rumored to be considering stepping down, meaning Torval's renewed Senate tenure might soon propel her into even greater prominence, perhaps even to the chancellorship. Behind the composed statements lay calculated intent. Torval had paced her return with intent, reminding the empire that her influence extended beyond industry. Intervening at precisely this moment, she subtly reinforced her enduring political weight and sent a message: retirement was not yet in her plans. Between May and July of 3310, Torval quietly sponsored legislation increasing mineral exports from systems under her influence while simultaneously investing in infrastructure and public works. This dual investment acted as a strategic magnum. It incentivized loyalty among beneficiaries while embedding her influence into systems' economic lifeblood. Governors and councilors who had once resisted her overtures found themselves reliant on her patronage, aligning their policies more closely with her agenda. Diplomacy was not solely rooted in economics. Torval continued to champion traditional imperial values, especially the regulation of slavery as a structured institution of opportunity rather than coercion. In September 3310, she negotiated a framework through which border systems suffering from overcrowding and resource depletion could integrate rehabilitated servitors, former slaves, in structured labor programs.